everyone. Welcome to Chrysalis on the Couch. If you enjoy this video, please give it a like and subscribe to our channel. I'm Kay and I'm a Chrysalis tutor, and I'm joined today by...
Hi, I'm Helen and I'm a Year 3 student.
Hi, I'm Jo and I'm a Year 2 student.
Hi, I'm Sarah and I'm a Chrysalis tutor.
And today we're going to be talking about gratitude. And I think gratitude is really important. There's times when life can bring us troubles and feel really difficult. And I think it's important those times, as well as when things are going well, that we're actually grateful for the things we have got, because sometimes we just don't appreciate what we have got in life. And sometimes I'm really grateful for just the small things. Like, my friends think I'm a bit mad because I'm always looking at the clouds and seeing pretty formations in the clouds. And I think they're amazing. White fluffy clouds in a blue sky. And it's almost like another little world up there. So I'm really appreciative of that. And things like the smell of cut grass in the spring. I think that's amazing. So I normally say things that I'm grateful for every morning and every night when I go to bed. And sometimes it's big things and sometimes it's just small things, but I think it helps me to stay positive and remember those things that I'm grateful for. So what do you think about gratitude then, Jo?
I spent years looking at gratitude and not actually doing it. And I realised how ungrateful I was. A couple of years ago, I started doing a gratitude practice, similar to UK. Every morning I wake up before I've even got out of bed and I go through a list of things. I started off with 3 and now I go through a whole list of things that I'm grateful for. And they're normally the same things every day. Sometimes I add things. And through doing that, it's not only enriched my life, but I've become so much happier. It really does change your mindset. Of an evening, again, I do the same as you. I say 3 things that I think were the wins of the day, what I think that went really well. And then I say do my gratitude again. And like that, it's completely changed my mind into a really positive mindset, definitely.
So do you do anything like that, Sarah?
Well, I'm quite interested in actually this as a subject generally, because I think you can't take the word attitude out of the word gratitude. I think it's quite fundamentally placed that it's a sort of looking at the world through rose-tinted glasses. I think it's really important that, and very fundamental to one's mental health and well-being, that we frame things in a positive way for ourselves, and that reflects outward to those around us. So I think, the very basis of the word attitude within the word encapsulated in gratitude, I think is perhaps a good starting point for us to underpin this conversation, really.
Mm. Mm. Well, what's your thoughts then, Helen?
I didn't really think much about gratitude until I started this course. But I find I don't really do it in the morning evening. I do it when I'm out walking and when I'm completely alone and I just look at nature and I go, I am thankful for the world I'm in, for my family, for my friends, and being able to just do the simple things in life. Having a roof over my head, food to eat, all those very simple things. But being out in nature does it for me. And sometimes I will just sit. I have a favourite spot about 2 miles from my house that overlooks the whole of the countryside. And on a summer day, and even on a winter day, if I'm feeling a bit down and I just go and sit in that spot. And for some reason, it just cheers me up because I can sit there and I can look at everything and go, life is good. You just have to embody everything. So it's definitely something that I've looked more at since starting the course, and actually since starting with UK. So it's been very much at the forefront of my mind for a lot of things.
And I mean, like you, I think I've got a big hill just across in the park near me, and going up there, and everything then looks smaller when you look down, and it just makes you sort of put things into perspective somehow. You know, when you're up high and you look down, you can see, you've got a sort of got bird's eye view of the situation, haven't you? And it can put things into perspective. Because I think sometimes it's very easy to focus on what's going wrong in life rather than what's going right.
Absolutely. I think there's I find some, especially kind of the small things, really annoy me sometimes. And you have to think, am I going to worry about that tomorrow? No. Right then. Let's see where we can go from now. But yeah, it's the small things, and it's very childlike, I'm afraid. But you know, just very things like having really nice warm slippers in the morning. It's like, oh, you know, it's really silly, but it just makes me happy.
I think gratitude goes hand in hand with the feeling of abundance, and I think the more you notice what you have, the more abundant you feel, the more wealthier you feel. And I'm not talking about monetary wealth here either. And the more you kind of amplify that feeling, the more comes to you anyway. And I think the universe rises up and goes, oh, you like that? Here you go then, and just keeps producing that. So I think it's really key to what you're focusing your mind on is going to just keep coming. So if you're focusing on negativity, then you're just going to keep creating that. If you're focusing on positivity and what you have, you're just going to keep creating that. I think that's very important. I think people don't really understand that.
So we're sort of talking about the law of attraction now, aren't we? You know, what you put out, you get back. And if we put out lots of positivity, we're going to get more positivity back.
I think also, unfortunately, I think it's human nature to weigh up what you haven't got against what other people have got. And I think if we compare ourselves to those that are less fortunate and acknowledge how fortunate we are.
Oh, something's happened to your mic, I think, Sarah. You've gone a bit quiet.
Have I?
Oh, now you're muted.
The joys of technology.
No, you've gone very quiet. Something happened, and you.
Can you hear me now?
Oh, that's better. That's better.
Sorry about that. I don't know what that was. I was just saying that I think we often compare ourselves to people who are more fortunate than us, and therefore we feel less fortunate in life. I'm not necessarily talking about materialistically only, but I think we look at people and assume that they have, you know, perfect relationships or beautifully behaved children or whatever it is, rather than looking at those that are less fortunate and realizing how much we really have ourselves.
I spent most of my 20s doing that, comparing myself to most of my friends. And I finally learned that actually I have an awful lot. So I did exactly that. I compared myself to who I believed were more fortunate than me.
But even those people you think maybe have got great relationships, or their children are really well behaved, or they've got these amazing houses, it's not necessarily true, is it? Because we only get a little glimpse into their life. We don't know what it's like to actually be them. And we know that money doesn't make you happy. Having a big house doesn't make you happy. And are they really appreciative of what they've got, or are they still searching for something else?
But I think going back as well to what you were saying about going up on a hill and having a view and being out in nature, I think gratitude is very much about the feeling of being thankful, not just counting one's blessings and noting them, not just saying, oh, I've got a lovely car, but actually knowing the worth of that car to your life, in being able to perhaps get the children to school without walking them through the rain, or being able to go and buy lovely big plants at a plant centre, which you wouldn't be able to do if you didn't have a car. So it's about genuinely feeling the worth and genuine value, again, not monetary, of what you have.
I think quite often people wait to be given something to feel gratitude, and actually if you can look around at everything you have now, because that was once something that you wished for, it just becomes the new normal, so we don't realize it. But if you look around and see what you have, and you generate that's generative gratitude, that feeling, you start to realize how fortunate you are, you know. And you might not live in the most beautiful of houses, or have the best of what is perceived to be the best, but actually by seeing what you have, you can feel like a king, actually, or a queen, you know. So generative gratitude, that generating that feeling, is very important.
You can have very little, can't you, but still be grateful, feel that gratitude.
Yeah.
Because we're probably all so much better off than a lot of people are, you know. And it is just appreciating life, isn't it, and really feeling that.
Yeah, the fact that we woke up this morning, that our arms are working, that our legs are working, that we can make our own decisions, that we're not being pushed around by anybody, that millions didn't do that this morning. I find that just so liberating. And why wouldn't you be grateful for that? That's not a given, you know. That's a gift.
I don't know about you guys, but obviously we hear the saying, you don't know what you have till you've lost it. Yeah. Now, one example is I smashed my arm up in 2019, and I smashed my elbow in half, and I didn't quite realise how much I used one arm to do everything. And since then, I've actually been thankful and grateful for having two working arms. But I never thought about it. I just took it for granted. And then when I couldn't move, it was like, oh, this makes things difficult to the highest extent. And everything became difficult. Everything became quite negative at that point, because I couldn't do anything. And I had to ask for help to do everything. You know, I couldn't even get dressed. And it was to the point where I was getting even more frustrated. But after it healed, I was like, oh, actually, this is really quite good.
So you appreciate your arm more now.
I appreciate I can do this.
I think we do just, you know, not appreciate those little things, don't we? Like our health is so important. And when you feel poorly, you realise, you know, when you don't feel like getting out of bed and not doing anything, you realise just how important it is just to feel healthy and alive, you know. So do you guys, I mean, as well as affirmation, you know, there's other things you can do, aren't there, like visualizations and having a vision board. I've always kept a vision board. I need to update mine because mine's a bit out of date now, but I think having a vision board and having it where you can see it every day, and again, sort of trying to bring those things into your life while still being grateful for everything that you've got, you know, I think that's really important.
Yeah, absolutely. I have a vision board. And I think setting goals, even small ones, achievable goals, breaking them down, having your vision board so you have right in your eye line, so that you can motivate yourself on the days where it might not be so easy. And then keep reading your goals over and over, but in the present tense, as if they've already been achieved, that they're here right now, that you've done it. And then generating that feeling of like what it would feel like that it is actually happening now. The freedom, the happiness, the security that those things give you, whatever it is. it just keeps you motivated to move forward. It keeps your vibration high. You feel happier. Yeah, absolutely. I do that. I do that.
I have a poster on my front door, on the back of my front door. So every time I go outside, I read it, and then I can go out. It's sometimes I read it all the way, but it's just quotes like, "This is your life. You can do this. You are enough." And it just reminds me as I step out my front door that, yeah, whatever I'm doing that day, going for a walk, going to work, I've got it. And it's, I don't have a vision board. Maybe I should try that actually. But I have lots of, I have a lot of one notebook that I scribble an awful lot in. So I suppose that's kind of where mine goes. But yeah, mine sits by my front door, and then at the bottom it says you only live once.
I don't believe we do actually, but
No, me either. It's coming back again.
I do think we're here to make the most out of this life as possible. So it's the same sort of thinking, really. Yeah, so I mean, there's gratitude journals as well, which is similar to what you're doing, I suppose. And I've got lots of quotations all around my houses, not houses.
It's working then.
Yeah. Just little things like in here, I've got some days you just have to create your own sunshine and live for the moments you can't put into words. And I've got dance with the fairies, ride on a unicorn, swim with the mermaids and chase rainbows. You know, all little quotations like that just make you feel positive and appreciative. So I really like things like that around the house that I can see all the time.
You mentioned earlier, Kay, about affirmations, and I think for people who struggle with positivity and have low self-esteem, I think that they are key. That again is something that has totally changed my life. And again, it only came to me later, even though I knew all about it. And the minute I started to repeat, like daily, over and over again, the things that I felt that were lacking in my life, like I loved myself and I was very worthy, that I was happy and healthy, and etc., etc. When I've started repeating that over and over and over again, the feeling that it gave me, and you know, especially when you repeat something multiple times, it goes from there to there, doesn't it? And then it becomes you. And I actually now am that. I mean, I wouldn't go back to not doing it anymore. I would always continue. I do tweak it now for other things where I feel like the self-worth isn't quite there, you know, so I think that's really key.
Sometimes when I see clients and we discuss how to stay positive and using affirmations, and sometimes when people are going through a bad time, they don't do it. They're like, oh, I wasn't in the mood to do it, or I didn't have time to do it, or other things have been on my mind. But actually, that's the time when we need to do it the most, when we are feeling negative and things aren't going well. Doing it then is so beneficial. Do you find that at all, Sarah?
Actually, I think I was thinking about this as you were speaking. I'm sure we've all seen the film Pollyanna.
I haven't actually.
No, I have, no.
She's an orphan who goes to live in a rather drab and dreary society, and she's full of cheer and cheerfulness, and brings sort of rainbows into this lady who's a bit of an invalid's room, and brightens up her room, and all sorts of things. But she plays a game called the Glad Game. And the glad game is that no matter what your circumstance or what it is that you're finding difficult or making your life drab or dreary, there's always something to be glad about. And she brings this to the whole community. And of course, by the end of the film, she's brightened up the whole of the community by playing the glad game. And I think there's one part, I can't remember the exact day, but somebody was saying, well, you know, tomorrow's Sunday, there's nothing to be glad in that, and everybody was agreeing, and she said, yes, there is, because it means that there's a whole week until the next Sunday or whatever it was. And she managed to sort of twist and reframe everything, or find the good in it. And you know, so I suppose I, on a low key level, do play that a little bit in my head, that if, you know, there's a tea stain on your lovely coffee table, and you think, well, what could possibly be the good in that? It's stained the table. You know, you sort of reframe it perhaps for yourself and think, well, that's a bit of history of the table. It reminds me of that particular friend I had over for you know, tea and or whatever. Yeah, so it's just about reframing, and I definitely do that.
Or it's an excuse to paint your table purple.
Yeah.
which is what I, not purple, but I actually painted my table pink. It got quite a few stains on it. Yeah, because I like a nice colourful house, so pink's fine. So yeah, seeing the positives in everything, isn't it really?
Yeah, 100%.
Always find a positive. And sometimes I remember, it wasn't long ago, I was in a bad mood about something. Something had happened, and I was driving along and sort of moaning to myself in the car, and then I saw the sun going down, and it was so orange and so bright, and I immediately went from moaning to, oh my God, look at the sun. And it totally changed my mood. You know. So yeah, just something simple. And I don't think people appreciate, you know, the light coming every morning. Imagine waking up and the light not being there, it's still being dark. You know, we just don't appreciate.
Well, it does make you think about, you know, people who are, say, incarcerated and have no liberty or freedom. You know, that even simple things that, you know, like running out in the rain would be such a joy for them, whereas we would all run away from the rain, or you know, perhaps cover up from the rain and hide from the rain. Whereas to some people, the rain is, you know, many people, in fact, I suppose, if you're in agriculture or something, you know, or you're just growing a nice garden, you know, you might welcome the rain. So again, for me, it's about perspective. It's the way you look at something or choose to look at something. It keeps, for me, it keeps coming back to, it's exactly the same situation, but it's how you frame it or look at it. And last night, quite coincidentally, I picked up this book and I opened it to this page. I don't know if you can see here. Can you read that?
No.
I'll read it to you. It says, honestly, I just opened it at this page, and it says, is your glass half empty or half full? Asked the mole. I think I'm grateful to have a glass, said the boy.
Exactly.
Yeah,
rather poignant and useful for today.
What is that book, Sarah?
Sorry?
What is the book?
Oh, here you go. It's The Boy, the Mole, the Fox and the Horse. And Kay, if I know anything about you, there's a wonderful bit in here about cake, chocolate cake.
Now, somebody else told me about that book.
Oh. It's beautiful.
Maybe that's a sign then. I need to get the book.
Well, it's beautiful, and it's full of lovely quotes, and it's also accompanied by beautiful drawings. And I think it's something that you might like to have a look at. It's very thought-provoking. So, yeah.
I'll look that up.
Just going back to what you said, Sarah, about difficult situations and then finding the good in them. When I look back on my life and all my worst situations, it's really hard when you're going through them and you're in the eye of the storm to really get a perspective on it. But when, in retrospect, when I look back on those, if you're able to, you know, really see the growth that you can come away with, you know, the benefits of what happened to allow you to grow and change so that you become the person you are now. I find that I'm actually really grateful for all my really hard times. You know, I don't look upon them as a bad thing any longer.
I must say, I had a brief Zoom call with the district commissioner of my scouting thing. I've just taken on a new role within Scouts, and we were just having a brief conversation. He says, I just want to say something. I said, oh yes. He goes, you've changed. And I said, good, bad, indifferent. He goes, no, you have changed. Since I last saw you about 5 years ago, you are a completely different person. And it's really lovely to see. And I just sat there and I was like, oh, well, thank you. That's very nice. And then after that call ended, I sat there for a good half an hour going, actually, I have come a long way. And I'm grateful for that very difficult part of my life in order to grow to be where I am now. But for someone to recognise that, it made me think even more about it.
Yeah, I mean, we go through challenges, don't we? And they do. I believe that's what we're here for, is to learn and grow. And life can't always be good. And would we learn anything if it was? You know, we do grow from those difficult experiences a lot of the time, don't we?
Yeah.
So again, it's perspective, really, isn't it?
Yeah.
You know, I won't labour this point, but I had a period of quite serious illness, and I can remember coming back from that. And sitting in this very room and feeling absolutely euphoric, because I was well, I felt well, I had, come back from having spent a period of time in hospital, etc. But had I been seated in that same room, in the same chair, in the same position a year earlier, that feeling of euphoria wouldn't have been there at all. And honestly, if I could have bottled that feeling that day and sold it, I'd have made a fortune. And yet, really, it was just the experience, it's what you're saying, Helen, of what I'd been through, rather than anything different about my having sat in that self-same chair in the self-same room. So it is about having perspective, really.
And I think expectations are really important. I think the more we expect, the more difficult we make it for ourselves. And I think in our society, there is a bit of that keeping up with the Joneses, isn't there? And we all need to have fancy gadgets and technology and lots of everything. And I think that can then make people ungrateful, unappreciative of what they've actually got. And I remember when I was in Goa, and it's a very poor country, and there's people living on the side of the road in like wooden shacks with a bit of tarpaulin over, and yet they're so happy because their expectations are low. They've got somewhere to live. The country is beautiful, and they haven't got any luxuries, but they're really happy. So I think, expectations, what we expect, is also quite important. And what do we actually need rather than what we want all the time? People want, don't they, rather than actually need.
Actually, Kay, I had a conversation with a colleague of mine yesterday, and she comes from an extremely close-knit family. She's one of 4 children, and she gets on extremely well with all her nephews and nieces, her siblings, her parents, etc. And we were having a conversation, and I said, your parents have done an amazing job, really, of creating this, because you don't get many families as such, etc. And her, it goes in line with, it follows what you're saying, actually. She said, my parents are just humble people. We didn't really have anything. She said, we didn't have money or anything. She said, but we valued one another. She said, because we had one another. So it's what you're saying. There was no expectation of anything, but they've clung to one another, and really it's quite something. And she said to me, I'm so lucky, I'm so grateful. And that was yesterday's conversation.
I think people quite often put a lot of their happiness in getting things and obtaining things, and they can make people happy for some time, but like Helen was saying about change, everything changes. It's a universal law of nature. Nothing stays the same. So those things, they either become normal, the new normal, and so boring, or the things break down, the car breaks down, or the relationship breaks down, or whatever these things that you're striving to make you happy, and then they make you unhappy and they suffer, and we keep placing all of our happiness in these things, expecting them to make us happy. Of course they won't. If we can take a step back and understand, yeah, be happy, but no, it changes, and then not be so invested in it, and then kind of be invested more in people, in yourself, in being okay without things, that then you're more liable to be more stable, mind more stable, more even. Yeah,
I think that's.
Oh, sorry, Kay, go on.
I was just going to say, I think that is really important, and I think if you can appreciate yourself and feel good and happy with yourself, then you're more able to appreciate everything else and everyone else around you as well.
That's key.
What was you going to say, Helen?
I was just saying that social media plays into a lot of this as well. People seem to portray a certain type of life on social media, and it all seems to play into, well, I've got this and I've got this, and people then have this thing of, well, I should have that and I should have that life. And I think it, I have a kind of love-hate relationship with it. It does good things, but I feel it does an awful lot of bad things for a lot of people. And
that goes back to what I was saying, Helen, about people aspiring to those that are more fortunate than perhaps realizing that they have so much of what other people might desire themselves.
Yeah, and I think it would be good if maybe more on this was taught in schools.
Yeah,
I know there's more stuff going into schools like meditation and things like that, but I think gratitude would be a really good thing to get kids doing in schools as well.
I think by looking for material things to bring you happiness is sadly a fool's game, and like you say, Helen, people are looking at other people thinking that, if they could just get there, then they'll be happy. But really, what is that all about? Why would that make you happy? Because you're looking for what? Love, acceptance. And if I could just be that and have that, emulate that, then people will love me. Well, if you're looking outside of yourself for that, why aren't you looking inside for that? And so to give yourself that love, unconditional love, warts and all, I think that's really key. And when you give yourself that, you stop looking externally for yourself for your happiness. So you can enjoy those things, fine, but really you have everything within you, and it definitely needs to be taught at school. I agree with you.
Yeah.
Actually,
gratitude, self-esteem.
I teach, and we do teach gratitude. I asked just last week, students what they were grateful for, and they are quite thoughtful, and they are able to be grateful and think beyond just saying, I'm grateful I've got or they can think quite deeply. One of them said the other day, I'm grateful for opportunities, which I thought, well, that's lovely. I think we do try and draw people's attention to it, really.
Yeah. I know that I usually run an after school club, and we have quite a lot of littlies, and it always warms my heart when they come up and say, oh, thank you for looking after us, Helen, or thank you for looking after us, Michelle, we had a lovely day. And they don't prompt or anything, they just do it. When I open the door to their parents, obviously they say hi to mum or dad, and they come back and usually they give us a great big hug and say, oh, see you tomorrow. And for me, that's so lovely, because I feel appreciated for the work I've done, but they express it quite freely.
I think it's nice to be appreciated by others. It makes you feel good, doesn't it? But you have to make sure that you don't rely on that approval from others, that you like yourself too, because that's very important, isn't it?
Yeah, very much so.
Well, do you know what? I'm sure we could talk about this for much longer, but we have got to wrap it up now. So as I say, it's been great chatting. It's a really interesting subject. But if you enjoyed this today, please give us a like and subscribe to our channel, and watch out for the next episode, which will be coming soon. But from us for now, it's cheerio. So see you again soon.